questions and addresses by the public. I'm happy to take any questions of clarification on those if there are any at this stage.
Any clarification needed? Okay. Mr. Brown, you have 3 minutes.
Mr. Chairman.
You need to put your mic on.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, and members of the crime panel. My name is Justin Brown, and I am a resident of Northampton. My question and address relates to the proposed sale of Wootton Hall and its intended use. Firstly, I think it's useful for me to provide background information to this address. When police and crime commissioners enter office, they swear an oath which includes the following words: I will serve all the people of Northamptonshire in the office of Police and Crime Commissioner without fear or favour. I will act with integrity. I will take all steps within my power to ensure transparency of my decisions so that I may be properly held to account by the public. The swearing of this oath of impartiality is so commissioners are there to serve the people, not a political party or any one section or persons of their electorate. Background of proposed school. Adam Simmonds has made it clear he wants to open a school on the Wootton Hall site. It is mentioned on today's agenda. What Adam has failed to mention on this matter is who he is working with on this matter and what type of school he is helping to open. I've got some information here that you may share between yourselves at the end. I'll draw your attention to a print-off from a website called Wootton Park School. You'll note it describes Adam as working with partners to develop the school. Last night I looked at the website. It contained a welcome note from Andrew Sortwell, who described himself as chairman of the Northampton Free School Trust. Who is Andrew Sortwell? On his LinkedIn profile, he says, this is public information, he worked at Northamptonshire County Council, and this was during the same time period as Adam Simmonds. Who are the Northampton Free School Trust? According to Companies House, again, this is publicly available information. The company was created in late 2013. It has 3 directors, including, this is publicly available information, Mr. Chairman, Andrew Sortwell and Brian Binley. Mr. Binley gives his occupation as a politician. Could this be the Conservative Member of Parliament? I draw your attention to, there's lastly on there about the Northamptonshire Enterprise, which mentions housing on the site, which is not mentioned on the agenda. I ask that plans to sell Wootton Hall are shelved until an independent investigation is conducted on Adam Simmonds, his connections with the Northampton Free School Trust, and I'm referring this matter to the Independent Police Complaints Commission to fully investigate all communications and plans made regarding the Wootton Hall sites and sale between Adam Simmonds, Andrew Sortwell, Brian Binley and other persons connected with the Trust, specifically misconduct in public office.
Time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Do you wish to reply at this stage, Commissioner?
Yeah.
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, on the agenda, under this item, we do talk about some of the progression of some of the things I set out in the Police and Crime Plan, but to deal specifically with the Wootton Hall, Wootton Park School, comments made by the member of the public. So, let's go back a bit. So, in November 2012, when I took office, probably on that day, I announced to the force that we would be leaving the Wootton Hall site. And I think Mr. Brown would remember that, as I said that to 2,500 employees of Northampton Police in the seminars in the spring. And what I said was that we were moving off that site because I felt, for a number of reasons, one, the building did not represent the 21st century police force that I wanted to create, and also I felt that the building itself had created a culture which I wanted to change. And the third point I'd raise is that I wanted the force to perceive itself in a different way, and I wanted to perhaps take out this obsession with Northampton being where everything happens and look elsewhere. So those 3 points sort of have been guiding my thoughts about the future. Excuse me. about the future. I alighted on the concept of a school actually quite late in the day, really, because in the manifesto I talked a great deal about the need to prevent crime, get upstream, everything that this panel is familiar with in terms of prevention and early intervention. And that's still very important to me, but I hadn't at the time of the election alighted on the fact that how do you do that? And one of the things that I wanted to do in those months pretty much after the election was explore what early intervention and prevention would look like. So in discussion with a lot of people, not to mention head teachers, I felt that if you were going to change a generation, literally lift a generation out of crime, prevent them from deteriorating, families deteriorating, all the rest of it, you had to start pretty young, and you had to start in schools. I could spend a lifetime probably trying to go around educational establishment to convince people of a particular way of doing things to enhance the life chances of young people. But rather than do that and try and convince head teachers, I thought the best way of doing that was to propose the idea of setting up a school. Under the current government's philosophy, and not too dissimilar from the previous government's idea around free schools, police and crime commissioners do not fit within the category of being a sponsor of a school. So that was the first opportunity that I thought we could create, and that's not possible. So I then made it really clear in the media and with the people I met that I was looking to see a school develop, a free school develop, which would harness some of the things I cared about in relation to prevention. Now, what the government's policy on free schools has done is pretty much taken us back, in a sense, 200, 300 years ago, the way schools were originally developed. That people who had light minds wanting to improve education for kids would come forward and build a school. Our state system has developed a lot since then, but the government wants individuals to still come together, parents, families, whoever, teachers, and create schools. That's the whole philosophy of the free school movement, and it's becoming very popular. So the idea that individuals, some of whom Mr. Brown has mentioned, coming together to say, we like this idea, Adam, we like the idea that there should be a free school in Northampton dedicated to these particular things, we are going to perhaps make that vision happen. So I think we need to separate out the concept of a school in itself from the substantive issue of what Mr. Brown is talking about the building and whether there's any conflict of interest in relation to me as an individual. So the concept of a school in itself is not dependent on where it's built or where it's housed. A lot of free schools in this country actually get their permission from the government to create themselves, and then they go looking for buildings and land. So they're not mutually exclusive. So the idea of the school is something we can return to and have a conversation about. In relation to the buildings and everything that has been mentioned, the individuals of the Trust are people that have come forward to say we'd like to be involved in this. The Trust has been set up by these individuals as a legal entity. I'm not a trustee, and I am not responsible for the Trust. The organisations that are partnering in this would be Northamptonshire County Council, simply because they are the local education authority. And they have said to me, when I made public statements about an ambition to see a school, that Northampton needs at least 2 more secondary schools and a large number of primary schools. And in particular, they needed a secondary school in the part of Northampton where the current HQ for the police is situated. The County Council are also exploring another school further south of the town. So they said to me that if I was serious about this, or that I was talking to people who might set up the school, to say there was a demand for a school, there would be kids needing to go to those schools, and families would need to find places. So there is clearly going to be demand. The Trust is an independent entity. There might be links in terms of the people. I clearly freely know people like Brian Binley and Andrew Sortwell, and I've met with them. There's nothing silent or quiet about that. Andrew Sortwell, in his time here, was Director of Education. It makes entirely sense that a former Director of Education is interested in setting up a school. But Andrew's career thus far and prior is in the business of setting up schools and working in Hong Kong and around the world in setting up establishments. In fact, he's just come back from places like Afghanistan and others where he is an international expert on how you do that. So I'm pretty pleased that someone's giving up their time for free to be part of something that they care about. The principle for me is the establishment of a school, the site itself isn't important. Where the school is something we come to later. I do intend to move the police force off the HQ site. But I'm bound to sell that at market value to the person who makes the best offer. If we're able to have people who apply to buy that land in due course and buildings who are committed to my ideas and my vision and the police and crime plan, and they meet that criteria, so much the better. I am the landlord, I own the buildings, or the Office of Police and Crime Commissioner owns those buildings, so I've been very explicit.
Mr. Brown, with great respect, could you not comment while the Commissioner is replying, please? Thank you.
I have been explicit to the police force about the fact it's not my intention to sell the site and land for housing or any kind of development other than that meets my police and crime priorities. So for me, that's a pretty cast iron guarantee. In terms of what a school might be on that site, when I pitched the idea to the police force back in the spring of last year, I was basically saying to them, if we weren't on this site, what would be a good legacy to leave on this site? And I think a school is one of the best legacies you can leave behind in terms of the use of the buildings and the land. However, that is still to be decided whether that's the idea. I know the trust concerned and the trustees, of which there are more than 2 people, it's now about 6 people, who are experts in their field. They are interested in that land. There's no doubt about it, because they see the vehicle of that land. But nothing's been sold, and that is still up for discussion. In fact, the Department for Education hasn't received an application for the trust to open a school yet. So there's a lot of prematureness here. But I just want to be upfront about the insinuation that's been made around impartiality, one section of society and stuff like that. I think what's really important, certainly if someone is a former police officer, is that they base their comments on evidence, which is not circumstantial, which is not aggressively trying to present a picture that doesn't exist. I'm happy to entertain the rough and tumble of public debate, but I am here to do this job to the best of my ability and deliver the police and crime plan, which is the document that I hold the Chief Constable to account for delivering, and to do that against the backdrop of the fact that you're the first person in the job. Lots of people don't like the idea that it exists at all. The fact that you come into the role and try and change things upsets people as well, because they don't like change. And then they fixate on the fact that you're an agent of doom and destruction. Well, that's nonsense. And anyone who knows me would beg to differ. So directly in response to the questions, I guess I'm saying there is no free school right now. There is an application that's being prepared by the Trust. The Trust is independent of myself. No promises have been made at all. And it is up for actually the public now to decide, the local people, to respond to the demand survey that the Trust are doing, to ask the public and parents particularly, do you want a school in that location? Would you send your kids to that school? If that's a resounding no, then I suspect there won't be any school.